Okay, so it's Sam. I'm here and I'm going to be talking about the debilitated Venus that we have now in the sky. Venus is going to be debilitated until September 5th. And as you can see, I have this chart over here. It's drawn for August 16th, 2021, but Venus actually entered the debilitated sign. I believe it was the 10th or the 11th, right around there. So when Venus is debilitated, we have um, this sort of criticism that comes in, where we tend to find fault with what makes us happy or what we're looking for to make us happy. I go back to a great teaching that comes from my guru Amma, who, when answering the question of happiness, and when people say, "But Amma, you talk about spirituality and being disciplined and doing this, and it sounds like so much work. Is it wrong that I just want to be happy? I just want to be happy. Is that okay? Am I wrong because I just want to be happy? I don't want to meditate. I don't want to do all this stuff and work on myself and be disciplined. Is it okay that I just want to be happy? That's really all I want." It's hard for people to actually admit that. I wind up having to say this all the time. But underneath it all, everybody's just trying to be happy, or quote, feel good is the other way that I say it. Be happy is the Venus part. Feel good is the moon part. So these two feminine planets work like that. Venus is the part of us that I just want to be happy. And the moon is, I just want to feel good. And that's 99.99% of our life. Venus in the long run and the moon in the moment. So Venus in the long run says, I'm pursuing the things that I think are going to make me happy. My desires, the things that are going to make me happy. People that I like, the place I want to live, I'll be happy there. I'll have a happy life. I'm here to have a happy life. Right? That's Venus. And then in the moment, the moon is like, okay, does this feel good? Do I feel good now? Does this feel good or does this not feel good? Feel good or not feel good? Because if I'm feeling good in the moment, then it's good. That's good. Good is I feel good. So that innocent question that people present to Amma, where they say, but I don't want to meditate. I don't want to work on myself and do hard things, and I just want to be happy. The other part is I just want to feel good. Is a very courageous, brave, and honest question. And why does that happen? Or why do we get this idea that there's something wrong with that? And so Amma answers very simply and powerfully, like a great Mahatma does. The great Mahatma says, yes, it's okay to be happy. You're here to be happy. But you're here to be happy for no reason. You see, Amma is like, she knows. She knows what's going on, right? She's a great soul. And it sums up the essence right there. And it's why Amma is my great Jyotish teacher. By the way, I'm going to do a video about this one day, but the best guru you can have is a Satguru, is a Mahatma. Because they, in their words, lead you to the truth of every other truth. And it's listening to the words of a great Mahatma like Amma and having a love of astrology that actually showed me how these things work. Because what Amma is describing is exalted Venus, happy Venus for no reason, where everything makes you happy. Because Pisces is no distinction. where everything is all one. When everything makes you happy, then it's not even called happy. It's not an emotion. It's not a desire. It's not an accomplishment. It's not a possession. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. These are the things. You want to know why you're not happy? Because happiness is a desire. It's an accomplishment. I'll get it and I'll be happy. It's a possession. Now I've got it, or them. Now I've got this person. I found the one who's going to make me happy. I found the thing that's going to mean I have a happy life. It's an accomplishment. It's a possession. So why am I talking about all this with debilitated Venus in Virgo? Is because Virgo is the opposite of happiness for no reason. Virgo is reasons, reasons, details, and there's every reason with Virgo. And when you get Venus in Virgo, we can find every reason to not be happy. Because again, happiness, when it's connected to bliss, is with no reason, right? When you take happy for no reason, that means bliss. That's the bliss of the soul. The bliss of the soul is happy for no reason. The bliss of the soul means happy for no reason. Being discontented with the world and having a hard time being happy and finding every reason to not be happy and being possessive of those things that you think are going to make you happy. If I do this and do this and do this, I can keep that happy thing right here. Oh, you're stop making me happy because you said this, you said that, you did that, you did this. You were supposed to make me happy, and now you're doing all of these things. I remember the things. I recognize the patterns of the things that make me happy. So if I keep doing those patterns, I'll keep getting my happiness. My happiness will fall into these patterns. These are the things that make me happy. I'm very specific. And if it's not that, then it's just not up to my standards. I have standards. So that nature of Virgo, to be critical, and I don't mean critical necessarily in a bad way, like, criticizing someone, but to use rational mind, discrimination, criticism, to think critically, which we need to do, does not elevate Venus energy. It elevates Mercury energy. In fact, Mercury is exalted in Virgo because Mercury is where we tend to gather a lot of details, but there's no structure to it. It's not organized. It's not systematized. It's not codified into a system, so to speak. So Venus exalted in Pisces is where those boundaries disappear. When Venus is in Virgo, everything becomes so hyper literal. The things that make us happy get narrower and narrower and narrower. This is the type of person that makes me happy. They have this, 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 this. By the time you get down to that, nobody can fit the bill. There's a couple other things that can happen with Venus in Virgo as well, is when Venus is in Pisces, for example, those qualities of Venus become very expansive. It can even lead to things like promiscuity, because and finding again a variety, like anything and everything leads to some kind of desire. And that's a different problem, because we still live in the body, we still live in the world. And something especially like sexuality and whatnot needs to also be a sacred container. That's what Venus is really trying to do, not just blow it up into the cosmos. But again, the problem in that context is that we're taking this spiritual energy and trying to express it through like a physical body, physical acts of love, or even physical things that can make us ungrounded. Because the thing about Pisces is it's reaching for something that's beyond the world. So, for example, someone may, when they do make love or when they have sex or something, it's like a transcendent experience. They go into like the Pisces, stars, celestial cosmos, let's say, with the act of sex. Because again, Venus is also, or it's not just sex, but even like with music or other kinds of things that bring joy and happiness. When the planet is exalted, that energy is like very developed. It's like totally developed. So, for example, the senses feel really good, maybe more than they do for others. And it's an emotional, sensual merging, right? Music sounds like, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing. And the heart just like melts into the cosmic oneness. By the way, music is a better expression of it than sex as long as it's not sort of the kind of promiscuous sex where someone is looking for it everywhere. And I've seen this many, many times, especially when Venus is a functional malefic, like for Leo and Cancer, Sagittarius, even Pisces. Venus in the first and Pisces. Oh, you got that exalted Venus in the first. That's wonderful. Yeah. Read a lot of charts like that and see what that exalted Venus in the first for Pisces does. The eighth lord in the first. Again, these are the things that happen when people don't actually practice. But besides that, something that's very developed also is tricky. This is why exaltation and debilitation are both sort of wild cards, and they should never be judged simply as that's the good one, that's the bad one, ever. But what we can know is that when it's exalted in its highest state, it's very developed, like all exalted planets. They get very developed. You'll see that the person, for example, if they have exalted Venus, they're often quite beautiful. Their physical appearance. Why is that good? Why would that show up? Because it shows that if you're beautiful and you're nice looking and charismatic, you're going to get a lot of opportunity to engage on a Venus level. A person will have musical talent, musical ability. They'll be interested in those kinds of things, perhaps, right? Because that's the boon of Venus. When it goes into Virgo, again, it's exactly the opposite. This is why I try to compare and contrast. Again, something like perhaps the sexual experience isn't as exalted. It doesn't bring the elation. It doesn't bring the oneness, the feeling of merging, and that thing that feels very beautiful about a sexual coupling. Instead, it's a little disappointing. It's a little not what you had hoped. And so it's not necessarily something that a person enjoys as much, like, let's say, the physical act of that. Now, again, this is very simplistic because, of course, someone could have exalted Venus, Venus and Virgo can lead to very beautiful sexuality and all that stuff too. These are simplistic ideas. And in fact, when Venus is in Virgo, there are a few things about it that are also really good, which I'm going to talk about here. But definitely cycling through the criticism, the limiting, narrowing, especially like even the possessive part, is one of the reasons why Venus is difficult in Virgo. By the way, one of the things that happens when Venus is exalted in the other side, as it relates to relationships, oftentimes exalted and debilitated can have a very similar look ultimately because of the polarity and the polarizing that's going on. This is part, in fact, I just taught a class on this kind of blind spots and polarities. Exaltation placements are very much in that blindness projection schema. Exalted Venus in Pisces also has a lot of disappointments because it's exalted in Pisces, where we're like, this is the one, the soulmate, the sex was amazing, this was that, this is so great. And it's not, obviously, because we're still on the earth. So the person can go from elated sensual experience one to the next, trying to find the thing on earth, and driven by this engine of disappointment. with the archetype of Venus in Pisces. Again, with Virgo, it winds up being just the opposite. It could also have the disappointment quality, though, but instead the it's because of the opposite thing. Not, oh, this is the most incredible, blah, 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 but it's like, this is not what I'd thought. This is, you have to be careful. You're worried. Again, Virgo is also really worried. It's also, again, worried about maybe even, disease or getting attached to someone and, getting hurt and other sorts of things. Now, again, I bring this up to try to also make it find the middle ground, because there are definitely qualities, especially of Venus being debilitated, that are really quite helpful and really quite supportive. And of all of the debilitated placements, Venus debilitated is the least, I would say, problematic and the least afflicting because of these things I'm going to talk about now. For example, Venus areas of life, like I just said, we tend to do in excess anyway, because we're all looking for the Venus thing. How much Venus am I going to get today? My whole life revolves around how much Venus is there, how many nice people, how much good food, how much fun, how much beauty. Our whole life revolves around it, and we tend to waste our entire life on Venus things. It's not until we get older and Saturn things come in, Saturn comes after Venus, that says, okay, are you going to start to grow up now and know and recognize that your life is not just about trying to be happy and enjoy? Because that's such a blinding attachment. When Venus is in Virgo, the limitation that Virgo places on the Venus projection, on the Venus desire, in some ways can be very empowering. By the way, I've seen this in the charts of many saints, several. I know Swami Shivananda had the debilitated Venus. Again, because now what it does is it pushes the desires down a little bit and makes it so we recognize, you know what, we can enjoy life, but we don't have to, spend our whole life trying to find enjoyment. My Guru Amma also says, you can still enjoy. You can still enjoy life. You can still enjoy a piece of candy. You don't have to sleep on a bed of nails and only eat, broccoli and food that doesn't have any taste. No, you can. We're here to also enjoy. But you don't have to eat the whole bag of sugar in order to enjoy the taste. You can take a taste of it, enjoy it, and then move on. But again, we become addicted to, we become attached, we become possessive, we become ultimately, we sort of strangle the things that we're trying to find that make us happy. And in many ways, that also has a resonance with the archetype of Venus debilitated. Because again, Venus in Virgo. Virgo has that desire to control and manipulate and then kind of sort of destroy the energy a little bit. So one of the things we have to be aware of, particularly now for the next few weeks, Venus will be debilitated through early September, is particularly to get nitpicky with other people in our life, with the things in our life, of course, which includes other people, and all the fault finding. One of the examples that I use with Venus is, it's like Virgo is kind of like, you can look at Virgo as like the accountant or the office manager, who uses like Google Docs and spreadsheets and all this kind of stuff. And Venus in Virgo is kind of like spreadsheets of problems that we have. Like, we all just want other people to love us. You just want to be loved for who you are. We all know we have problems, but we really seek people who love us for who we are. and the things that we do that are stupid and that don't make sense and that are mean or whatever, find people who think, it's not that bad. Yeah, even though you're this way, you're okay. We all want that. Venus, and that kind of has a Pisces quality. Yeah, it's okay. Venus in Virgo is like, no, no, it's not okay. In fact, I have spreadsheets of mistakes you've made and problems you've made, categorized by here's your attitude problem, here's your anger problem, here's your sloppiness problem, here's your laziness problem, and I have it spreadsheets and bullet points, and I have a PowerPoint presentation ready to go to show you what you've done. And we can do this kind of thing with our partners, with our life in general, not just partners, but Venus is, of course, the karaka or the indicator of other people in our life and how we're treating them, how we want to be treated as well. And there's a mirror reflection. Again, everything has a mirror reflection. Again, I just taught a course on blind spots, projections, polarities in astrology, because right now we're in a very polarized time. As you could see, even on this is a graphic of next of the 16th, which is in a few days. But you can see all these planets are opposite Saturn. Actually, the sun is actually over here right now, opposite Saturn. So we have all these polarities right now in the sky. Very polarized time. And of course, the most natural polarity is us and other people. What's even more built in is like us and like a romantic partner who archetypally and statistically, archetypally is a man and a woman. All these opposites, all they do is they clarify and pull and contrast some extreme polarity. And what we're really trying to do on a spiritual level is reconcile all of these polarities, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And so when we get a planet in its debilitated place, it's one of the dark spots, right? Because we also have its brightness and its elated state, and we have its darkest state. And again, when the planet is in the darkest state, it tends to act in a way that takes us away from what we're spiritually trying to learn, which again, Venus is that finding happiness in all things. So be aware over the next few weeks until early September that the people in your life especially, which they're a reflection of how you treat them. Especially look at the areas and the ways in your life where everyone treats you the same way. These things that you think in your mind, like, why is everybody ba ba ba? People are just dot dot dot. Think of those things in your mind that you have in your mind, and realize that that's a composite, that's an aggregate of how you treat them, the reflection that's coming back to you in many ways. Again, not necessarily 100%, but just ponder that idea. For example, and I mean in a very specific way, like let's say, for example, if in your mind it seems like, no one respects me. Again, Venus operates through the realm of respect. No one respects me. Well, people don't respect me. Or why do I always feel so disrespected and unappreciated? By the way, this is one of the big ways in which Venus in Virgo operates around being criticized, feeling criticized. Remember, I just gave the example of spreadsheets of problems. How respectful is that of another person? But often when you see, for example, Venus in Virgo, the person who has compiled the spreadsheet will be the one who feels unappreciated often. And the way they're like, I feel unappreciated, and here's all the things you do to make me feel unappreciated. We're full of these blinding projections. We completely unappreciate what the other person does, or we completely don't appreciate what the other person does. We only find the fault. We find the problem. Again, this is the Virgo nature. It's a tamasic planet. Tamasic in the sense that it's designed to find problems. That's what Virgo does. It's trying to find the problem, trying to find the flaw. Again, Mercury is exalted there, so when we use Mercury with so much focused effort, it's good, because Mercury can just want to play around and not be serious. It gets in Virgo and it's like, no, I need to use my discrimination so I can find the flaw, find the mistake. So when Mercury is there, it really makes it serious. That's what we're supposed to be doing with Mercury. It's not just using the intellect and the curious nature and our words and our communication to just be silly and have fun, and where all details are kind of the same. No, we're supposed to be using it to find the flaws, recognize it, grow in intelligence, and learn from life. We're not supposed to do that with Venus. Venus isn't where we're trying to find the flaw. It's where we're trying to, again, be happy with others and with ourselves. Because the other thing, again, like everything, it's a projection. The first thing that a person who has Venus in Virgo experiences is all of their flaws. How they might feel like they're not pretty, not whatever. And by the way, one of the things about it is often, I've seen many times, Venus and Virgo people are really actually quite pretty, because Virgo is a sign of beauty. It's a young maiden, particularly women. So it's often a very unrealistic expression, but they'll often not feel appreciated. They won't feel respected because they're finding the flaws in everything everyone else is doing, but those flaws just match up with the flaws they have inside. No one can disrespect you in any way that you don't already disrespect yourself. It's impossible. Like, I already know that I don't know, a decent astrologer at least, okay? So no one, if someone tried to disrespect me by saying, you don't know what the hell you're talking about anyway, you're an idiot, you know nothing about astrology, you're stupid, blah, blah, I wouldn't feel disrespected by that. I would think they're an idiot. Someone tried to say, you're this, you're that. There's no way I could feel unappreciated or disrespected by that if it wasn't somehow linking up with something I already felt within myself. There are ways people could. If people said to me, like when people say, in fact, I was playing tennis today. I'll give an example from my life. I was playing tennis with a guy today, and it wasn't a match. We were like doing drills, right? He's a really nice guy, but he had this annoying habit of, we would be on the court ready to start doing a drill. Like, we talk about what the drill would be. It's like we would hit backhands, and then we would hit forehands, and we were doing a volleying drill. And we talk about, okay, we're going to do this. Okay. Then we get ready to do it, and I'm standing there. It's hot. I'm standing there across the net from him. And then right before we start to do it, he starts walking up he starts talking and explaining more stuff. And I don't know, coaching me and just talking. And I'm like, I felt like saying, will you shut up and back up so we can start playing? Like, okay, we already talked about it. Let's do it, right? Moment of my impatience. And I don't hide my feelings very easily with all my energy in the first house, especially if I'm ready to, like, do it. Let's do it. I'm ready to do. I don't want to hear you talking anymore. Let's just play. And this is for a couple of hours that we played. And like, well, the last thing we started to do was actually like a match. And again, he had to stop one more time and come up and start explaining something to me, and he could see my impatience. He could see my impatience. And I was like, and it was true. And he said, sorry, I just wanted to say this, even though I can tell you're fed up with me talking, blah, 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 blah. And I felt bad about it. He didn't make me feel bad, but I feel bad because I don't like that impatient part of myself. And I try, I really try. But again, this is what happens. It's like, it's going to happen 5 times, and it's going to come up to the point to where I'm going to show it and feel bad about it. So again, after we were done, I said, sorry about getting impatient there. And at first, I think he didn't really want to hear it. And then we just kept talking. And then I went back at it again and said, I really don't like that part of myself. I was just a little bit impatient and doing all the drills and stuff. blah blah. And then he loosened up eventually. But I make sure to convey to someone that I'm sorry, that I have that part of my nature. And he totally understood because especially when you're ready to do something like when there's a sort of competition, like you're now okay, now let's do it, and you're ready. Now there's not. It's very simple. We've talked. Now we're going to do it. And then someone wants to stop again and start talking again. I'm like, I don't want to talk. I want to do it. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up as an example is if someone would have said to me, or if any time someone says to me, "You're so impatient. You're biting people's heads off. You're blah blah blah," that would be something where I would say, "Yeah, I know. You might be right." And maybe it just happened in a certain situation, and I would say, well, sorry, that's not really what I meant there, but you're right, I have that tendency again. And I would hope that people would be patient with that. If they're not, and they like come down on me like a ton of bricks, then I'm going to feel unappreciated. I'm going to feel disrespected because I'll try to tolerate their shortcomings, but I already know, and I can kind of forgive myself for it a little bit because, or on a certain level, because I also know that I always apologize. I make amends for it. And I know that because I know how I feel when that happens. I don't like it, right? So again, this is the kind of thing like, so for example, I don't have debilitated Venus though, but what I'm saying, for example, like if someone had debilitated Venus, for example, or something where Venus is really hard, they wouldn't have a lot of objectivity around their own, how they disrespect other people and how they feel disrespected. So we're all kind of gauging this within ourselves anyway. Venus is not just how disrespected we feel, but how we disrespect others. And I disrespected him by getting impatient and all like that. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, it wasn't like I didn't even say anything. I just was like, I kind of like harumphed a little bit. I didn't even say anything actually, like, come on, man, or whatever. I just gestured like it was obvious I was. And by the way, he also said, yeah, you're right. Sometimes I talk too much, so it was not a big deal. I use that as a small example because it just happened. But you could see like the situations in your life when things get really polarized. Like if I had to deal with that guy all the time, he drives me a little crazy because he does kind of talk a little bit more than I like at certain moments. He kind of doesn't have a filter sometimes. And by the way, this is a big thing that happens around our speech and our communication. I would imagine that he recognized my response because he probably sees it quite a lot. Maybe not on the court like that, but he tends to just go on and not really be looking at the situation very well. Like earlier, I asked him just a simple question, and this is someone who will just keep talking unless you stop him. I mean, he'll just keep talking. Like he doesn't have a filter. So he's probably used to the reflection back that he talks a little too much, or that he doesn't know when to, sort of like limit it. But his experience is probably often that people don't appreciate him for his words. But actually what's happening is he's also the one who is not, or it's that it actually even originates from him, that he's not paying very good attention to his own communication. He just kind of speaks very impulsively. It keeps going. The situation is a little like, now's not a time to talk, and so what to him comes back as, why is everybody always impatient with what I say, or why are people like that, or blah blah blah, is actually it's a reflection and a response to the way he communicates as well. And not only that, but it's also a disrespect. It's unconscious. Again, this is how the energies work. It's not a judgment. It's that he's unaware in many ways that he's doing it. I'm sure he is. But he does see the response that comes back and winds up thinking, oh, why is that going on? It doesn't occur to him why people change the subject and disappear really quickly. Like at one point, I asked him, so what do you do? It was literally, that was the only question. So what do you do? It was on a break while we were drinking water. So what do you do? And he just kept talking and talking and talking. And I finally had to cut him. I didn't cut him off rudely, but I did have to go to the bathroom, and he wouldn't stop talking. And there were some porta potties somewhere, but I didn't know where they were. And he was like in mid-sentence, and I was kind of waiting for a breath, and he didn't give me one. So I was just like, sorry, where's the, I said, sorry, where can I go to the bathroom? He's like, oh, the porta potties are over there. I just had to kind of bust in right in the middle of this long story about his career as a sales rep, and I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff. But again, he's a very nice guy. So anyway, it's just we don't see what we're doing. And he would, and again, that might have looked very rude to him because it's like I was in the middle of something. He just interrupted me and ran off. So now is a really good time to be looking at these projections, these polarities, this back and forth about how, especially around the realm of respect, how respected you are, how much respect you give others, how accountable you are for that as well. I found, and I found that there's nothing like being honest and sincere and owning up to mistakes and sincere apologies and reckoning with things that can't that that will always set things back on course. I know he was a little ticked off after we got done playing. He was a little ticked off, and I had a feeling even that my first apology might not, that he might have been a little angry or a little irritated. So I kept going, and I did it again, and I did it maybe 3 times because he's a nice guy and I like him, and it is a part of me that I could do better, and I put the effort. This is the Venus. I put the effort into making sure that I know that happened. And I also said, I told him the thing that kind of triggered it a little bit after like the 3rd time. I didn't say it the first time. You don't say, here's how apologies often sound that aren't very good, that aren't very Venus-y. They sound like justifications. You say something like, hey, sorry I got a little irritated, but we were ready to play and then you just started talking and it really kind of got on my nerves. That's not an apology, by the way. It's not. It's a justification, and it's blaming him. This is why those kinds of apologies don't usually work very well, because it's not an apology. It's apologia. You're trying to let yourself off the hook. If you even say anything, a lot of people wouldn't have said anything, right? I said it because I'm aware of it, and I know this is part of my nature, and I didn't like it. And it was unconditional apologies, like 3 of them, and then the last, and as he got more receptive, he was like, "Oh, that's okay. I understand. It was hot, it was kind of new, and I kind of, sometimes I understand. We were about to play, and you didn't, I had another rule to kind of give you because that's what was going on. We were playing also this game where it wasn't just a regular tennis game. It was like, now we're going to start the game at 30 all, and then we'll go through 1 deuce, but then on the 2nd deuce, it's receiver. There's this complicated rules, right? So it's like, okay, that's what we're doing. And then we're ready to play after hearing all these rules. Then he wants to come up and start talking again. And I'm like, now what? Can we just play? So he's like, yeah, I know. It's a little confusing. So then, he saw himself in it. And then I said, yeah. And I said, and for me, I get very kind of focused, and I'm kind of like, it's kind of like you're getting ready to go and then someone stops. And, I said, and you can see the way I am on the court because we had just played. And I'm pretty competitive. I'm not very gabby or talky, or I'm kind of in a grouchy mood when I'm playing anyway. It's kind of funny. Because he doesn't know me either. He's like, man, this guy's a little bit of a mental case. No, but I said, I said, but I don't really like that part of myself. I shouldn't have acted like that. So again, this also, just like with apologies, with respect, being respectful to people, I've found in my life that for someone who's as potentially irritable and makes as many mistakes as I do with communication or other things like that, you don't have to filter yourself. You can be yourself, but part of being yourself is then also being real and being genuinely sorry, genuinely apologizing, generally helping the person or making the person know that it was your mistake and that you don't feel bad about them and that you like them and they're a good guy or whatever it is. And that kind of thing actually strengthens your friendships, your relationships. This is one of the biggest problems that happen in relationships as well, is people don't apologize. They're not accountable. I don't have to do that. Again, I don't have to be accountable. Again, these kinds of things really over time can wear relationships out. When someone is willing to look at how they disrespected you, Instead of it always being what you did to me, what you did to me, I feel this way, you did this to me, and they never take accountability for anything themselves. Over time, it just starts to wear out. So again, this Venus in Virgo is a time to really look at all of these things. By the way, Venus in Virgo can be very apologetic and real in that regard. So that can be a great strength. And there could be some enormous healing at this time with this Venus going through Virgo, because we can start to look at these polarities in the Venus behavior axis. Again, Venus is a part of us that wants to enjoy life. We're really trying to be happy for no reason, but we find a lot of reasons to not be happy. We tend to project them out onto other people from a feeling inside. We're carrying around all of our wounds and all of our inner criticisms that we picked up. Then we're like a trigger, like all these triggers. Someone says this, we can react. If something, like I said, if someone were to criticize me in some way that made absolutely no sense, it's not going to bother me. If someone were to say, hey, you were really disrespectful there, or you did that, or you were that, and it resonates true, I'll be okay, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry. And then I'll try to maybe clarify, here's what I meant, and I'm sorry, it was this kind of thing, blah, 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 or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, this is a good comment. I'm going to show this. Katie says, I don't think people are ready for your honesty. It's a shock. People like the tennis partner. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'll comment to that a little bit, because, again, it's honesty, but here's the thing. It's actually just transparent. Like what happened on the tennis court, for example, it wasn't me being honest. I mean, it was an honest expression, but it's honest. Like I'm honestly like a little bit irritated. So in that context, yes, this can be an excuse that I've used in the past. Oh, you just can't handle my honesty, especially when it comes to conversations that can become confrontations. Because yes, I can be very direct, and again, at first it's off-putting, because usually when people are that direct, there's a biting quality to it. There's a aggressiveness to it, and we tend to think that that's personal, right? And again, I've had to work on this. It's not. I'm not. It's something I've had to accept about myself. I really can't change it. But what I can do is try to soften what seems to be very critical on a personal level, which I've observed, that the ways I've been misunderstood is that people think I'm really judgmental or angry, or that something that comes out just in a very direct way is actually personal, because we're used to something like that being personal. And I understand why. I understand why people misunderstand it. And and again, I'm very aware of it now. It took me a long time to be aware of it. I was going around. The reason I talk about a lot of these things in this way is because I went around for decades doing this, thinking, why is people just can't handle my honesty. People just can't handle honesty. People just can't blah, blah, blah. And it was my reaction to how everyone was reacting to me and all of my like weird energy. And I realized, no, they're reacting to something that I'm actually putting out. And if I don't have to try to change it. I wanted to change it because I want who I am and how I'm responding to be accurate. I don't want people to misunderstand. None of us do. It's painful to be misunderstood. It's painful to have it's painful to be trying to just be honest in the only way I know how to be, and have people think that I'm a prick, or I'm angry at them, or that I don't like them. It hurts me to think that they thought that. So I've put in the effort to say, no, it's not you. I'm just very direct. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. That wasn't my intention. I'm just saying this like this. And you're right. I'm sorry that it comes out being so direct. It's not personal. And this is actually the truth. I'm not angry at anybody. But in the moment, I can seem that way because, again, you can look at my chart and see why very clearly. All these planets in the first house, the sun, Rahu, all of that. It's just very transparent is the word that I use. Like I can't hide my feelings or my whatever's going on in the moment. It's right up there, right up front. Okay. So anyway, I don't mean this to be a conversation about me, but it did come up. And the reason that I wanted to highlight the comment isn't necessarily even because to talk more about me, but this whole idea that, in fact, I used to use, and that people who wind up justifying being a little bit of a prick, excuse my language, is, well, people just can't handle my honesty. I'm just honest and people can't handle it. And blah, blah, blah. You know, people can handle honesty. People can handle honesty really well. And I can be very honest, but I can also say it nicely. I can also be kind. And it's something that I've worked on. And we can improve. We can work on these things, right? And again, you can see it in the chart, even when this happened and why. By the way, the reason it happened more than any other thing is for my work. I've talked about this before. This is one of the greatest things that you can do is find the thing that you love to do and then do it. Because before I started doing this kind of work or whatever, I couldn't have cared less. If you don't like me, here's the middle finger. But once I started doing something that I cared about more than me, and more than me being some whatever it is I thought was good about that, then it becomes more than about me and how my story about how I'm telling people the way it is or whatever it is that I thought was so glorious about being misunderstood because I had to be this truth teller or whatever it was I was doing. No, representing these higher teachings, I saw how those personality problems of mine was not only not affecting me so much, but affecting what people thought even about astrology and Jyotish and all of this, because now you start representing something bigger. And so the whole process of actually learning about myself is and wanting to change personality problems or whatever is a parallel course to wanting to be successful in my work and all of that, because the work and the joy of that and something bigger was the reason. Because I also, you can't be successful if you're, you know, just kind of going through life kind of on the edge or whatever it was. So anyway, didn't plan to get into all this, but it's a good subject at least to be looking at what ways in your life, what things are coming back to you that where you always feel, let's say, disrespected or unappreciated. What is that, and what does it tell you about yourself? Or what are the criticisms that you bring out, like against other people? Like ways that, what is it that you say in general, both about all other people? Oh, they're this way, they're that way, they're this way, they're that way. And what mistakes have you made that you could maybe account for, apologize for, or at least recognize? This is the greatness of Venus in Virgo, and I've seen this many times. It's a great placement for being humble, for humility, for wanting to be of service, because both Venus and Virgo are of service. We have to be careful that it's not a service that comes from a feeling of servitude. When that happens, then it's just twinged with, or it's just tinged with a lack of confidence. And again, the lack of confidence is kind of like the shadow of the projection. So rather than turn it into that, make it be something positive. And by the way, the other great thing about when Venus is debilitated is that usually the Nitya Bhanga, or the thing that modifies the debilitation, is not far behind. And you can see Mercury will join Venus, by like the 22nd, I think it is. Let me look and see. When does it join? Oh, no, a little later, by the 26th. So by the 26th, Mercury also joins Venus. So then you have this Nitya Bhanga, which means, quite often when Venus is in Virgo, Mercury is also there, or it's exchanging. So when the ruler is there, it also sort of resurrects it. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that. Venus in Virgo, a great placement. coming up here. Again, definitely a time to introspect about your relationships, be more realistic about what you can expect from other people, rather than put them on a pedestal just to be disappointed, rather than criticize them because they're falling short of some ideal. All those things that you might be criticizing, again, look at yourself and see, do I do that? And you've probably noticed in with different relationships in your life, so many times, almost every person who projected a lot onto you, they were doing exactly the same thing themselves. That's what projection is. The person who's always saying, oh, you're this, you're this, you're this. You could just hold a mirror up and say, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. So examine those things. And I hope this was helpful for you to hear, and you